Arcosanti by Paolo Soleri. Paolo Soleri was born on June 21, 1919 and died April 9, 2013. He was an Italian architect. He established the educational Arcosanti Foundation and Arcosanti. Through his work as an architect, urban designer, artist, craftsman, and philosopher, Paolo Soleri explored the countless possibilities of human aspiration. One outstanding endeavor is Arcosanti, an urban laboratory constructed in the Arizona high desert. It attempts to test and demonstrate an alternative human habitat, which is greatly needed in this increasingly perplexing world. Arcosanti, the world's first archaeology prototype. Arcosanti is a project of the Arcosanti Foundation, a non-profit organization whose mission is to inspire a reimagined urbanism that builds resilient and equitable communities, sustainably integrated with the natural world. At Arcosanti, they pursue this mission through experimentation and application of the principles of archaeology. A combination of the words architecture and ecology that offers an alternative to urban sprawl. Origins: from blending the Italian words cosa and anti, meaning against things. Soleri named both his architectural design studio and the non-profit foundation he founded Arcosanti as a deliberate critique of the rampant culture of consumerism he saw taking hold in the world. Arcosanti, whether as a place of imaginative, provocative architectural experiments or a foundation exploring a built world in balance with the environment, both embody a radically indifferent perspective and aesthetic. In 1970, the Arcosanti Foundation began construction of Arcosanti, a prototype archaeology in the higher elevation of Arizona desert that proved to become a testing ground for Soleri's progressive urban planning concepts. Over the subsequent decades, workshop volunteers known as Arcosanti alumni began to build the iconic architecture of the Arcosanti we know today. Though the original design of Arcosanti is described in archaeology, the city of the image of man, Soleri's magnum opus on archaeology called for a place where thousands of people would live and work. Arcosanti has never been occupied by more than 100 people. Despite that, it continues to be regarded as an early example of sustainable architecture and vertically dense building that prioritize live-work space and the surrounding natural environment over urban sprawl. Dubbed the urban laboratory in the 1970s by famed New York Times architecture critic Ada Louis Huxtable, Arcosanti continues to experiment and test its own potential as a working alternative to urban sprawl. erosion of communities, and neglect of environment while supporting its residents to lead lives that are enriched socially, energetically, and economically. Influencing the built environment. Paolo Soleri settled in Paradise Valley, Arizona in 1955. On the 5-acre plot where he made his home, he began building experimental dwellings using unique and innovative building techniques called Arcosanti. Soleri's former studios and home is recognized as an Arizona historic site, using an earth casting method where concrete was poured over the earth, taking its shape from the contours of the land. Soleri created the unique and provocative structures and dwellings of Arcosanti. Sometimes soil was intentionally mounded or colored with added cement pigments. Once the concrete had cured, the soil was excavated out from the concrete shell, evocative of Grecian and Egyptian structures from the ancient world, or alluding to those seen in movies set in a time long ago in a galaxy far, far away. Arcosanti's experimental architecture has a beguiling otherworldliness, where most builders today would build a building from the ground up. Soleri built his structures from the roof down. Many of Soleri's structures at Arcosanti are built below ground level and surrounded by mounds of earth, acting as natural insulation to better moderate the dwelling's interior temperatures. The Dome House in 1949 in Cave Creek, Arizona was the first of Soleri's semi-subterranean projects. Soleri with a radical, innovative, and visionary. Paolo Soleri's unique construction techniques earned him the commission to design Ceramica Artistica Solimene, a ceramics factory in his native Italy that today is widely regarded as one of the most significant architectural works in Pietre sul Mare. In 1996, Soleri was commissioned by the Institute of American Indian Arts in Santa Fe, New Mexico, to build an outdoor amphitheater. No longer in use, the earth-formed concrete amphitheater has withstood several attempts to demolish it, and in 2017 was the key venue for the site Santa Fe Biennial, a prestigious contemporary art juried exhibition. In 1969, Soleri published his magnum opus, Arcology, The City in the Image of Man, and a year later purchased 860 acres of land 70 miles north of Phoenix with plans for exploring his nascent arcology philosophy and unique earth-casting construction methodology he had been developing at Arcosanti. For Soleri, the Arcosanti project was an opportunity to test his ideas on a larger scale as a concept for radically reorganized kind of city. In 1970, the first spade of desert soil was turned over and Soler's ambitious experiment, one that would attract over 8,000 volunteers to it and take 50 years to evolve, began. So this is the Arcosanti story in 1970. Over 1,000 dedicated and determined people have volunteered to create Arcosanti since it first began in 1970. The ambitious experiment that aimed to bring nature closer to people and people closer to each other through its pedestrian, multi-use, vertically dense design that stands in contrast to the urban sprawl and highways that surround it. Built on the premise of arcology, a concept introduced by the late theoretic architect Paolo Soleri. Arcosanti is a prototype microcity intended to blend architecture and ecology in a way that nurtures the people who live and work there. Scholars, architects, environmentalists, and many others find in Arcosanti something that inspires us all to think critically about our roles in creating a balance between the built world and the environment for the good of humankind and the planet. So this is the camp. So the camp is to shelter and house the waves of volunteers. The workshoppers who came as part of a 5-week workshop to build Arcosanti, a base camp on the edge of the Agua Fria River, was set up, measuring only 8 by 8 feet. Modular precast concrete panels were used to create a cube where one person would live, while 8 by 16 feet and later 12 by 12 feet structures were constructed as shared spaces and common areas, simply referred to as camp. This cluster of concrete cube dwellings have housed residents ever since, and today are joined by a yurt and common bathroom building. From 1971 to 1975, the vaults has been risen. After building camp at the base of the hill where Arcosanti sits, the South Vault became the first structure erected on top of the mesa. It soars into the desert sky with its 60-foot diameter arch made from 12 curved concrete panels. The lower portions of the vault were poured in place concrete, and the upper 12 curved panels were precast on silt, lifted into place with a crane and connected with wheel plates and a concrete beam on top. The North Vault was constructed in 1975 and is a twin structure to the South Vault. Design patterns and paint were applied to the vaults to give the concrete texture and color, with an almost fresco-like appearance. The geometric patterns and colors of the underside of the vaults are distinctive Arcosanti design motifs. In the earliest days of Arcosanti's construction, The south and north bolts were vital as shade structures, providing workshoppers with necessary protection from the sun while laboring outside. Today, the vaults are used as a common gathering space for a daily morning meeting of the Arcosanti residents. Large work projects, performances, celebrations, meetings, and a shaded area for outside summer activities. The ceramics ups. For decades, talented artisans have created the characteristic ceramic windmills and carved tiles that Arcosanti Originals is known for within the unique ceramics up space. Used initially as a temporary living space for workshoppers, the ceramics ups started being used for windmill production in 1975. This unusual canopy shape is quarter of a sphere and has long been appreciated for the passive solar microclimate effect it creates. For the artisans who work outdoors under the south-facing structure, the low sun in the winter sky directs sunlight and warmth into the ups, while the intense heat from a high sun during the summers is shielded by the rounded roofline, taking advantage of the ups effect. Arcosanti's ceramicists can work outdoors all year long. The front facade was precast on the ground, then lifted and assembled using a crane. The ups was cast in place over mounded soil supported by scaffolding. The result is distinctive part of Arcosanti's iconic architecture that is both functional and beautiful. Foundry ups. The second up structure at Arcosanti is home to the bronze foundry where over 12,000 Arcosanti Originals bronze windmills are made each year. As with much of the architecture at Arcosanti, the foundry was conceived to a multi-use space and initially includes one level of housing in its design blueprints. When the site excavation suggested that the foundry ups could support an additional level of housing, the structure was modified to include two semicircles of apartments along the rear of the ups. Exhaust heat from the foundry furnace ducted through the living areas and stored in concrete heat sinks cleverly contributes to the heating needs of the residents who occupy its apartments during the winter. The construction of the foundry ups was based on how the ceramics ups was built. In recent years, a fabric shade screen was added to further protect the foundry artisans from the intensity of the Arizona summer sun and heat. A solid foundation. In the high desert of Arizona, Arcosanti sits on a mesa of basalt, a volcanic rock that provides a strong foundation for its structure. By ingeniously constructing the microcity on basalt, the need to pour large concrete footings was eliminated, allowing for several structures to be under construction at once. The basalt itself also helps insulate buildings during the winter months and cool them somewhat in the summer months. The relationship between Arcosanti's structures and naturally occurring basalt rock it sets on underscores the central idea of what an archaeology attempts to do: integrate architecture and ecology in a sensible way. Arcosanti has used nature as its guide from the very beginning. East and West housing. As Arcosanti grew and more young people came to build this place that was seen as different from other towns and communities, the need for additional housing became clear. East and West housing were constructed using a combination of poured-in-place and precast concrete panels. Today, they continue to be used as private apartments and shared spaces for the enjoyment of the 80 or so Arcosanti residents who live there year-round. Among the special features of East and West housing are its vaulted ceilings decorated with fresco-like designs, bathroom floors tiled with ceramic tiles handmade on site, and an extensive patio with 12-foot swinging glass doors that trap warmth in the wintertime, creating a cozy greenhouse effect microclimate. Crops 3 building. Used primarily as a visitor center with a windmill gallery and cafe space, as well as private residential apartments. Crofts 3 is a multifunctional facility that demonstrates one of the core characteristics of Soleri's archaeology concept, that integrating the functions of living, eating, and working within a single structure. Among the unique features of the Crofts 3 building are its large windows on all 4 sides to take in the sweeping views of the high desert, its dramatic center atrium, and its skylight, which in the winter is connected to an eye-catching multi-story fabric tube that captures warm air above and transports it to heat the cafe gathering space below. Lab building. As Arcosanti evolved, the need for an enclosed workshop prompted the design and construction of the lab building, which provides space for a fully equipped woodworking shop, metal shop, and private studios for residents' own creative projects. Like several other structures at Arcosanti, it was built using precast concrete wall panels and a poured-in-place concrete roof and floor. The large glass skylight floods the workshops with natural light. At one time, the lab building was slated to become the main entrance to Arcosanti, and visitors would have walked through the market-like space, encountering the studios and shops within, before arriving the dramatic vaults. This intentional experience with architecture were narrow, Compact spaces give way to large, expansive ones is called compress and release, and was first pioneered by Frank Lloyd Wright, with whom Soleri had apprenticed in the late 1940s. The lab's usefulness is a workshop space outweighed its potential as a gateway to Arcosanti, and it continues to be used as a maker space today. Swimming pool. The initial excavation for this facility was done in 1973. However, budget limitations delayed its completion until 1978. Overlooking the valley formed by the Agua Fria River and cradled in the basalt cliff of the Mesa Arcosanti sits on, this 75-foot pool provides a dramatic setting for summer swimming. When at Arcosanti, Soleri swam in the pool daily. The ritual was not unique to Arcosanti. At his first architectural and design studios at Arcosanti in Paradise Valley, Soleri also built a pool and swam almost every day. Though smaller than the Arcosanti swimming pool, Soleri's Arcosanti pool features a cast concrete canopy suspended by recycled telephone poles. The East Crescent Complex. As Arcosanti's population of permanent residents grew, mixed-use living spaces proved necessary. The long continuous construction of the East Crescent Complex began in 1979. One side of the complex now includes spacious living spaces, a community kitchen, a meeting room, study space, and the archive of the Arcosanti Foundation, where Paolo Soleri's scrolls, models, sketchbooks, blueprints, and drawings are preserved. On the opposite side of the Crescent Complex, dormitories, mixed-use housing, a gym, and a solar-powered classroom enrich residents and visitors' experience at Arcosanti. The East Crescent Complex. All the facades of the East Crescent Complex face the Colle Soleri Amphitheater, while the posterior is lined with patios and courtyards. The two sides of the crescent nestle the amphitheater seating and contribute to exceptional acoustics for performances, talks, and concerts. The East Crescent Complex, with its integrated live workspaces, is an excellent example of Soleri's mixed-use theory, where structures are vertical and dense to optimize their energy use. Administrative office building. This three-level, vertically dense building includes space for offices, housing, and studios. The top level was once Paolo Soleri's private residence with an adjacent architectural drafting studio. Today, it is called the Sun Suite and may be reserved by visitors for overnight stays. The large spaces at the bottommost level are often used for conferences, educational programs, and large resident meetings. In between are the administrative offices of the Arcosanti Foundation, the non-profit organization founded by Soleri in 1965 to continue his work of exploring the intersection of the built and natural worlds through progressive architecture. Paolo Soleri Music Center and Amphitheater. The Paolo Soleri Music Center, located at the center of Arcosanti, is a state-of-the-art performance and lecture space. The open-air amphitheater can seat up to 500 people, while an intimate lounge behind the stage has been used for smaller saloon gatherings. From Shakespeare to stilt walking and from forums to film screenings, the Paolo Soleri Music Center is at the heart of Arcosanti. Along the roofline at the back of the music center, wide concrete steps are dubbed the Sky Theater and are often informally used for stargazing. Since 2018, an ambitious project to upgrade the lighting system of the Paolo Soleri Amphitheater has been undertaken at Arcosanti, called LAMP, Light Audio Mixed Reality Projection. The project extends well beyond lighting to deliver one of the most advanced multi-sensory immersive experiences in the southwestern United States. The Sky Suite. The Sky Suite at Arcosanti is a two-bedroom apartment that overlooks the Sky Theater of the Paolo Soleri Music Center and opens onto a rooftop terrace. If Arcosanti were to categorize this space, it would be considered a penthouse, as no other residential spaces are above it. Available to reserve overnight, this guest room is especially unique to Arcosanti for its spaciousness, which is amplified by the expansive glass walls in the living area to bring the sweeping desert views closer to the interior dwelling space. The Sky Suite is but another example of Soleri's intention at Arcosanti to bring people closer to nature and nature closer to people. Arcosanti's natural landscape. Arcosanti practices organic landscaping and gardening without the use of synthetic or chemical herbicides, pesticides, or fertilizers in any of its gardens. The health of Arcosanti's gardens is built from the ground up by making compost and adding natural soil amendments. Many of the plants grown in the grounds provide shade and moisture in the harsh summers and produce edible fruit for residents to enjoy. The Italian olive and cypress trees that you will notice here are inspired by Paolo Soleri's Italian heritage. For years, the olives grown in these trees are picked each fall and passed into oil by a mill in Queen Creek, Arizona. So this is the model of the Arcosanti.
I wanna see the light.